adding a little extra to it. So that's the first home. Now the second one is essentially the same thing. The setup is the same, the arrangement's the same. You've got the living room, the kitchen, and the bedroom, but I've just modified the interior elements to make it different than the one before. So instead of a bookcase as in the original one, in this one you have a little painting of a candy cane. It's I think it's the portrait of the guy with the top hat, and I've covered it with a poster and then layered on all of the soda cups to make it look like a candy cane. Now remember, the soda cups have those straws, so you'll have to be mindful of how you turn them so that the straws are inside the base of your painting canvas or whatever. Now, if you're just doing a three-dimensional candy cane, like along a walkway or something, the straws will be showing. There's no going around that. I did it with a couple of winter plots in the past. It looks a little weird, but you can get away with it because kind of, people know what it's supposed to be. This one also has a plant, potted plant. I just changed that. Instead of the emerald leaf plant, it's the habanero blooms. That's the only difference. I've used dome-like seats for this one as well, but as opposed to the other one where it was a solid dome, these are the hollow ones. But notice I've layered them up. It's 3 hollow domes together. Now I changed the exterior one to a different type, so it looks like the Cassian on the inside, outside, but the Exile on the inside. But that allows for me to put the pillows in without the corners poking out, because I've layered it up to give it a little thickness. It's just, something you figure out. It still looks okay. The bases of them are the end cap pipe. That's one of the pipes that you can get from the Palavar Point daily if you have leveled up and gotten into that zone. You can get that pipe. There's the other sewage pipes. There's like the L-shaped one. There's like I think it's called the vertical pipe, where it's got several little pipes together, among other things. But the pipes are like the ones you get the most of. And the end pipes, the end cap ones, they're favorites for tables. I'm using one here. It's doing double time. It's behaving as a light fixture for the downstairs, and I think it's behaving as a table on the upstairs. I can't remember. I have to look as we go up, but here I'm using as the base of the seats and for the little table here. For the fireplace, the other one was Dragon style and a little bit more simplified. This one is Cassian style, and I just kind of had fun with the little insetting the domes to make it look like little shelves. I could have added books and other knickknacks. Again, I would, but I'm at my cap, so there's no going around that. For the other one, I'm not sure what fireplace I used, but this is the Chua one, the heat rod fireplace, I think it's called. And then at the top, I added in a little, it's the Thanksgiving or autumn table setting. I just put it in here. I just plonked. Like I said, there's a lot of things that's in this particular build that little ideas from other ones, and I just kind of combined it all into the same one. So it's some grass bits, there's some pumpkins, there's a few of the infused habaneros for some of these little bulbs, and then of course the candles. And then clearly I tried to make kind of like a couch thing. Obviously with the hollow domes there was no way of joining it without it looking a little weird, trying to get the seat to go all the way across. So I just put 3 together and had them linked. So it's still kind of like individual seats, but they're they're hooked together. So it sort of resembles the previous one, but it's still got its own identity. Here, instead of a flower arrangement, we decided to do some beer and pizza. So we've got one of those two sipper cups, the same thing they used for the sink and the other one. It's being used as a little spout here. I think this is one of the red moonlights. This here is I think it's the sad portrait, and I've laid over top the poster. And then the pizza is cheese wedges. It's two different ones. One's upside down, that's the darker slice here. And then the right side up is the lighter cheese. And then the firework dynamite for the salami slices. I've used various other things in the past before the fireworks became available. I think I used the Bandit Dynamite. And of course, now with the color shifting, anything around that you could turn red would work probably just as nice. It's just the fireworks are handy. They're already red and round, and as long as you have something thick that you don't have to worry about them poking out the bottom, works perfectly. So yeah. And other people have done other ways of doing the cheese and the pepperoni. You can get away with a little bit more if you're just doing the round and not having to worry about making individual slices. But if you're going for slices, just using two pieces of cheese, one upside down and one right side up, it works pretty well. It's not perfect. You know, the shape of the cheese is a little off a little bit. It's not a perfect triangle slice, but I think it works. I mean, hopefully at a glance somebody recognizes that as a pizza slice. So yeah. Let's see. Over here we have this version of their holiday tree. The other one used actual trees, and it moves, and so it has its own problems if you go that route. But this one is kind of like a stick tree. It's using the thorny logs, the green versions. You can see there's several per layer. It's just 3, and it's like, well, 4, I guess, poking out. And then for the decorations, it's the tall files, the same thing I used for the water, for the sink and the other place. It's the same item. I've just used 2 and made it look like those little, I don't know if they're like stars or what, for like ornaments, but it's 2 of them joined. And then icicles for the opposing ones, and then protostar bombs for the others. I was going for kind of a blue theme. There's a lot of blue here. And then multiple files for the little star topper here. But when it comes to ornaments, depending on the kind of theme you're going for, if you want to do a plushie tree, you could just get a bunch of plushies, shrink them down to little dinky things, and those will be cute little ornaments. Or if, say, you have a player that's really big on being a cook, you could do little frying pans, just shrink those down, forks and spoons hanging off the limbs. Um, uh, I'm sure there's some other things you can think of, little pieces of cheese or something, make it a little star with the cheese, you know, kind of deal like that. But when it comes to just making like just random stuff, uh, again, that's pretty, again, I hate to say that it depends on like the colors, because really it doesn't anymore since you have the color shifting. But if you don't want to like spend your tokens and stuff on color shifting all of these items, I just found pieces that I thought had a blue color, like the bombs. You know, it seems kind of silly, oh, I'm going to put some bombs on the tree, but it just looks like little Christmas bulbs. I could have made them smaller, but I chose to make them this size. Um, but you could just use just about anything. You could put tires and make little black balls for those. If you're going for uh, colored ones, you could use plates. Just use several of those and make these little kind of like almost like a paper craft looking like with the plates. Um, There's all kinds of like little flag looking stuff that you could probably use, like little banners and things. It's really just, you can go crazy with it, really. But when it comes to like joining things like the star here, that's just a matter of finding an item that's interesting looking and just situating it in a way that looks different. We've seen a lot of these. Even you could do that with framed glass. We've seen people make little snowflake looking things out of that. That would work for a topper as well. It's just the more detailed you get on stuff like this, uh, the more decor it's going to use up. But if this is the only thing that you're really like personalizing in your entire little scene, then you can really go crazy with it. Because obviously not everybody's going to have the room to put this tree, because the tree itself takes up a lot of space with all the items that are being used. But yeah, it's just some ideas. We've done like brainstorming for tree decorations in the past, so you could probably look up some of the videos from that. But yeah, eye thingy. What eye thingy? I'm not sure what you're talking about. Eye thingy from Whiteville? I don't know. I don't know what you mean. As far as the gifts, most of them again are uh, the gifts as they come. Like this is a standard gift, and so is this one. But I took a copy of this one and sunk it inside the carrot plushie to make it look like the plushie has a bow in its hair. And then I did it again over here, but this time it's an upside down gift bag. The gift bag itself is actually, there's another one in the other house just as the gift bag, but I just turned this one upside down to make it look like a little box. And then this one here is actually a fully custom gift. It's two pillows to make the base of it, and then the bow is just little green pillows, the same ones that are being used for the cushions here. Oh, the ocular sphere. Yeah, those would be great for the tree. If you want to be sure that the eye isn't seen, it would be better if you have it set up like this, where it's not as easy to get around on the other side to see the actual eyeball. But if it's like, say, the tree's in the middle of the room and people could go all the way around it, if you're worried about the actual eyeball part, you could sandwich two of them together, eye to eye, and then you would just see the peachy color. Um, or maybe you want a tree full of eyes. That would be kind of a creepy, strainy, weird kind of tree, but you could do limbs. We've got, the ones that's got like the hand, the skeleton hands, and of course we got the bones. You could just do a tree full of bones. If maybe somebody's an archaeologist or something and they want a tree that's themed that way, you could do the spade with the shovel, and there's just really anything goes. The same way with like cake decorating. When we were coming up with ideas, you could use the toolbox and tires and stuff for a mechanic or something if you're trying to make some little decorations for the top, rather than making everything from scratch. You try to be kind of like creative in how you use certain items. Okay, so that's the living room for this one. Let me go up into the kitchen, and again, the setup's pretty much the same. You got the bathroom, the refrigerator, the cabinet for the stove and the sink and everything, the little breakfast nook, and then the main dining table. But this one, rather than the graded floor panels, I've used the spaceship window, which often is used most primarily as a door, much like the bathroom door here. But I decided to use it as the primary building block for not only the railing here, but it's also for the stools, the cabinet doors. Um, so yeah, just again, trying to show that you can have the same concept, but use different items, materials to make it look, unique. Maybe you have a particular theme, you're going for a military look, or um, you want something that's dark and metal looking instead of the yellow, bright yellow on the other one. And this is just another route. Again, I made stools for the table, and then I added backs over here for actual chairs. Again, like I said, for the light fixture down here, it's actually the same piece. It's just poking through. I used the uh, same thing that's on the mailboxes, the gear lamp, and then the base is part of the end cap. And since it's sunk down to make it kind of more table level, um, I had to put a fixture down below to give a reason why that's poking through the ceiling there. But you can see here with a smaller, it's perfect for a little table. Same thing that I'm using for the pizza table down here. And then here's the rest of that holiday meal that we had played around with before. We've got the cheese and crackers. The crackers are mattresses. We've got asparagus, corn on the cob, and sliced tomatoes. The tomatoes are stools. The red plush cushion seats. The asparagus is thorny log clusters or clumps, or I forget the name of it. Thorny log pile, I think, maybe. And then the corn on the cob is actually the stack of gold coins. So it's actually the stack of plastic coins, which has multiple stacks, and I've just turned it, planted a little bit, just so that the one stack of coins shows. Again, it's important to have a thick type of table or base that hides all of that stuff you don't want showing. It's not as practical to make these kind of custom bits for like a table setting that's like clear glass. I think Poi had that experience when she was making one of her homes where a lot of the tables were clear glass. She was very limited on what she could custom as far as foods or plating and all that kind of stuff. But when you have a thick table like this, yeah, just about anything goes. You can get away with, the stool legs for the chairs here, this completely disappeared. All the extra coins, the cheese on the platters, they're upside down. The platters themselves already come with a block of cheese on them. So if you flip them over, you have to hide the cheese. For the loaf of bread, it's just multiple slices stuck together. Notice I put a smaller slice and then I gradually enlarge the slice to make it look like, how loaf, it's not uniform necessarily. The ends are usually smaller and then it gets bigger in the middle. That's kind of what I was trying to represent here. But again, with the color shifting, you could probably get away with using a lot different things. This is just my take on some ideas if you're trying to make an actual assortment of foods. We have some food items, but not a wide range. And this is just some examples of ideas if you're trying to go for something specific. For the little wall decoration here, rather than the chef hats, we went with the coffee cup. I think I got this idea from Katya, I think. I can't remember. Anyway, because I think I think it was Faye, aka Katya, I think is one of the names. Faye that did I think it was one of those travel carts that was a little cappuccino machine or something. I think it was her. They did a little coffee cup emblem, and obviously mine's a little more complicated, and probably you can see at a distance some of the elements disappear. But it's basically snow blocks, like the cornerstone pieces and the curved bits, and then uh, for the smoke, my really basic smoke, and then the mug itself on a little saucer. just I needed something. I wanted some kind of artwork, and that was the only thing I could think of. For the stove here, we've got that sipper cup is not only being used for the sink again, but it's also the handle for the oven. The hot plates are the bases of, I think it's the propane tank. If you use other tanks, um, you'll get a different look. Some people, including myself, have used actually the neon signs, like the beer sign, the round one, multiples of those to make it look like little electric stovetop hot plate areas. Feel a sneeze coming on. Whew. Here, rather than strictly travel posters for the cabinet itself, I went with the wood crates. And these handles are actually part of the crate itself. And I've just kind of had to fake it in that the handles are meant to be where they are. You can tell that I had to make this door for the oven a little thicker to hide the handles that are actually over on this side. Now, if you use an item that doesn't have handles and you want to use something other than, say, the graded floor panel that I did in the other little proto hut, um, you can use the handles from like the vintage beer mugs. You can use graded shelves or the netted shelves. Anything got metal on it, that would work good. Uh, Other things too. The edges of pillars or floors or walls or something could work as well. Just depends on what you're needing and how it's positioned and what you can get away with hiding. So then I overlaid the travel posters on top of the crates, give it a little cleaner finish. But I purposely left the nails showing. I don't know why. You didn't have to, but that's just what I chose to do. The faucet controllers here are the bottoms of the Chua cups. That's a big favorite for buttons. I could have put some along here for like the oven controls, but again, I ran out of space. So yeah, that was yeah, the chain links, those are a perfect example. I've seen a lot of people using them for handles, and they're great for like if you have a door that's open or a cabinet door that's open or whatever, or a shelf or something. They work great for double timing as far as a double handle. It's small enough to go through, you know, most doors, thickness of them, and work well for that. So yeah, that's a perfect example, Aurora. The sink itself is just a bowl. I think it's the metal bowl. I've just sunk it down so you just see the lip of it. And then again, the blue file just sunk down so that it makes it look like blue water. The little pots here, uh, these are, a lot of people like the little tier pots. It's to represent where you put your flour, sugar, salt, uh, condiments or whatever inside it. They're actually that potted plant that's not here that was in the other one. The pot that I was using for it is actually this. It's just upside down so that the plant itself is inside here. And then I put bottle tops on that so that you would see it looks like it's a little container, like a jug or something. And that's where my salt and flour and sugar are. And then for the refrigerator, strangely enough, it's also the cabinets because again, I like to match things when it comes to furniture in a particular room. Some people like to spread that out throughout all their rooms, but I like to kind of break it down from different rooms. Like the furniture will match more in the kitchen, but it doesn't necessarily match what's going on in the bedroom, that kind of stuff. So it's two of those metal crates, wood crates, because you can see the handles there, but I just kind of ignore the fact that it's got handles and then added in the spaceship windows, make it little compartments. Maybe you have a freezer section down here and then freezer section up here, and then this is the other part. I don't know. But the handles themselves kind of determined where I was going to place the doors. And then, of course, the bathroom, pretty much the same setup as the one previous. I just changed how the door was. Again, staircase, same as before. And then the bedroom here. This time, instead of the two individual trunk spaces, I just gave them one large little closed cabinet. It's just multiples of those spaceship windows. And then I laid out a little sock. It's one of the holiday stockings to kind of hint, yes, this is a clothing cabinet. And of course, they too have their little bunk beds, but again, the same concept, but I've just used different items. It's the windows again, the spaceship windows for the base. I've layered in books. The pillows are snow blocks, and then the blanket is pillows. So yeah, probably the biggest problem areas was the curved floors. You can see I had trouble with laying in the items in a way that didn't look too haphazard. I didn't want it to look too patchy. So, I did my best to make it curved, but, still look kind of uniform. That was probably the hardest part. And following that was just the limited space I had, being able to provide as much detail in these these little houses with the limited amount of decor I could place down, while still leaving room for some of the decoration out here. Because I know for sure the polar bear took up a lot of decor count. And the penguin wasn't cheap. And then, of course, the buildings themselves were pretty expensive as far as that goes. Now, I said earlier that I made one house and then I copied it over to make the second one. That way I was for certain that everything would match as far as the layout goes. I did the same for the big one, and then I just added to it. I took out a lot of the windows because what the ideal thing was for it was I wanted to cover up the prefab home that's actually there. I didn't want any of it showing at all. So it actually, I think it stops right about here somewhere. The little ceiling and the chimney that sticks out of it. I think if you actually manage to get up high enough and look down inside past the roof here, if I kept it the same height as these, you definitely would have seen the prefab home showing through the glass here. But that's why I've made it into more of a tower kind of build. So it's the same shape and everything. I just removed some of the glass and added in more of the panels and blocked in everything with the pillars to fill in the gaps. So it's kind of the same concept. And I wanted it that way so that it looked like it matched the rest of the buildings. Some little villages and stuff pride themselves on being able to make multiple buildings and have them all unique to themselves. But for mine in particular, I wanted it to be similar. So it looks like these little, spaceship tops or something on there with the same round shape of the building and just slightly modified. Again, I used domes for the stairs here. Lead a little path up and down, and then built in the snow ledges here, partly to provide like a path, but also to hide a lot of the edges of the upside down snowy hills that we're using for the raised part of the ground. So the prefab home, about the only hint that you see is right here, these two pieces. Why I opted to leave that visible, I have no idea. I probably just ran out of room. I planned on probably putting bushes or something there and just didn't get around to it, and then actually ran out of space. Either way, that's really the only visible part, I think. Um, and remember, it's tricky. If you get real close to the door, the little door button disappears, but if you kind of back off, that shows up. Same is true for bunker house, especially on the inside. A lot of times people will cover that up and people will go right up to the door and then it disappears and they're like, I can't get in. And I didn't leave any part of it visible, I don't think, so that you can actually click on it. You have to back off a little bit to get the functionality to pop up again. But the door itself, I just used those crates. It's the same ones I used for the sink in the first house. I just used it for the door, and then it's the bottle top for the handle. Simple. You know, there's tons, literally tons of other things you can use for a faux door. This is just the one I opted. I probably was using it for the sink and I thought, that'd make a nice looking door, and I just decided to use it here. So, as I said before, the concept for this plot is it's a Protoville where the Protostar guys live and work. So we've seen their living quarters, their little proto huts or proto buildings or whatever you want to call them. The idea that this is their workshop, and when they are done making whatever they're going to make, they bring it out here. You see the little proto guy here traveling with his bags to the little proto Kurg thingy, and this one's loading up the bags to deliver to wherever. So now we're going to go into the little workshop, and here we are. Very colorful. I went absolutely crazy in this particular room with all sorts of ideas. I kind of wanted to do kind of like a Willy Wonka looking place. Um, it's not maxed out. There's still about 400 or so decor that I could place. I just never got around to forcing myself to finish it up. By rights, it's more or less completed. There's lots of things I could probably add into it. But you know, I could add some things here if I wanted. But we're going to walk you through it, and I'll describe some of the items as far as I can remember what I used. But this is my candy factory. Again, I was thinking of Willy Wonka and the Santa kind of stuff. Uh, just thinking how would it look if we had like a production thing going on. So you see there's lots of little proto guys around. Most of them are wearing green hats. There's one with a red. He's the one in charge. And then you have little helper ones all around in different places. So we'll start here. This is where the production starts for the chocolate candy. I have the Dominion scanners being used as kind of like where it like ports in and ports out into a different place. So you'll see those in various locations. It's just part of the assembly line here. Just the idea that comes out one and goes in another, and then it moves on to the next section. And this is where the containers are actually getting filled with chocolate. Now I know these are supposed to be sewage pipes, and it's a little disgusting if you know that fact, but I'm pretending that they're chocolate. So I've got a series of pipes. There's one here where the sewage, I've tilted it so that it looks like chocolate running through the pipe up here, and then I've got another one with water. And I didn't have like a true concept of how everything goes together, but I just pretended that, you know, there's going to be different pipes of liquids running through this particular area, and I set up these two. It was extremely tricky to get it to line up just right so that it wasn't poking out of the tube. The tube itself is just curved glass sandwiched together to make the tube, and then I capped it with I think it's the ends of tanks, but it might be one of these end cap things. I can't remember exactly. And then it's a waterfall that's being strung. It's the skinniest one I could find, and enlarged beyond belief and tilted so that it's straight across. And then I just very carefully lined up everything as best I could. Now the bottoms, you'll see how it's a little different color than the tops. And that's because, if I recall rightly, it's multiples. It's like either 2 or 3 curved glasses on the bottom. To frost it up, I wanted it to look like it's a solid stream of water going through, rather than just the waterfall. And then for the chocolate one, again, it's curved glass, single layer for top and bottom, and then the sewage uh, running through it. That's why it's a little, it almost feels like it's bowing out a little bit here, but I did my best to get it to look somewhat right. Then of course we've got the sewage pipe here filling up the chocolate, and then you got the filled chocolate ones going through. Now, for the filled chocolate canisters, those are just the barnacle weeds upside down. I've often said the bottom of those things look like little chocolates to me. I've used them in my bakery for some of the goodies there, and in other places for making candies. A lot of people like to use them for stepping stones in their gardens or pathways. Um, some use them enlarged for like cakes and things like that, but chocolate is what comes to mind when I see it. So I just put 2 or 3 in to make it look like the glass is filled with chocolate. And of course the pipes, a lot of them are again from the Palomar Point Daily. I think these are the vertical pipes here. For most of the conveyor belt system, it's the same things I used in the kitchen and stuff for the other house. The graded floor panels, that's most of this trim. And then the flat part for the conveyor part itself, those are the bottoms of gear trophies. I always like the color of it, and it's fairly even as far as like a square shape. And I had lots of extras, so that's what I'm going to use. And you can see I've used the graded floor panels for all of the trim here and the base here. Same way for all around here, all the base of this one, even for the walkway or the catwalk up here, all of this bit, all around the door, custom to the door itself. This is all graded floor, but it's all the same piece. It's just layered up differently, turned this way and that. The handle here is one of those end caps, the same thing I use for the table and the base of the chairs in the one house, the same thing. And then one giant uh, uh, gear trophy. The gear trophy is also used for the walls for this part and up above. See that? Takes quite a few, and I wanted to keep the round shape of the room, obviously, because I left that open at the bottom, so I wanted to follow along with the shape. Extremely tricky, and it used quite a few because you had to keep layering them up because the shape isn't like perfect. It's like kind of weird and everything, so just took quite a few. And of course it was tricky lining like the door openings here to match just right. You had to just turn it so that things weren't like bleeding off into it where it shouldn't and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, that was pretty tricky. But and then of course I wanted a lot of gauges and buttons to punch. This one I think is that little snow turret deal. That's why it moves. Um, it's just stuck in so you don't see the turret part. This is just the controller part. There's some control panels, regular ones. This one is of course the advanced thermometer. It's all one standard piece. But then I made my own as well. So you've got these little gauges here. It's just some hollow domes, several of those put together. And then the inside is the bottom of the red rocket. I think it's the red rocket is the one, it's like the white base and then it's got the red cap on it. So I've used the bottom here. And then vent tanks for the marker bits. I didn't want to go to the trouble trying to figure out how to do numbers, so I just did dots. And then the little gauge itself is a Merc dynamite. And of course I made the gauges read different. And then of course another dome for the base. And then these buttons here, those are just the bottoms of the Cassian fireworks. You can see they're pretty visible even from a distance, which is nice, you know, for you trying to get a good screenshot or something. Over here, the chocolate then becomes these little chocolates. They squirt out a little, so somewhere in the other part, the barrels of chocolate or the canisters of chocolate become little chocolate pieces. They squirt it out. And then we're at the decorating station here. So you start off with a tray of plain chocolates. And then here you get a dollop of yellow bits. These are the ends of bananas. Care to know what that is? Ends of bananas for the little yellow. Now again, this is before the color shifting, so I had to be creative with the items that I used for the different icings or whatever you want to call it. Now that you have color shifting, you can be a little bit more flexible as far as the shape of the item that you're using. You could just use a pillow and change the color and call it good, and then it would be all uniform. But for the purposes of this one, it's banana ends for the yellow. The machine itself is an L-shaped, what is that thing called? Pipe, there we go. L-shaped pipe, again, that comes from the Pallifer Point Daily. This here is two of the utility crates sandwiched together, so you don't see the tools themselves. There's actually like wrenches and books visible, but I sandwiched them together so you don't see that part. Then I've got cylinders, and then the end cap is fireworks, and they're meant to match the color of the little blobs that they spit out onto the chocolates. So you have yellow capped ones, and they squirt out the yellow icing. You got the red capped, squirts out the red, green for the green, blue for the blue, or white for the blue-white, something like that. That was the idea running through my head. It was a lot tougher to come up with this stuff than you think, to get it all lined up right, because some of the shapes were, the sizes had to be adjusted because not all of the rockets are the same size. Some are, like one of the rockets is actually kind of leans a little bit, so you had to tilt it just so, and it's just a pain in the rear end. But I'm very happy with how it turned out. So the first station gives you the yellow, then it moves along to the next section, and that gives you the red, and then it moves on to the next section, gives you the green. The red ones are the what the heck is it called? Dynamite firework. These here are the tassels of, I think it's the pink pillow. I think the pink pillows have the green tassels on them. And I've just made one corner line up just so it comes out a little green. Again, with the color shifting, this becomes much simpler, but at the time I didn't have that available, so I had to make do. So yeah, it's the tassels from one of the pillows. I think it's the pink one. And then we had the white or bluish white, and those are the files. So now we have a full sheet of decorated candies. I don't know why. I had to be complicated. It's probably because I liked the texture of the stripes, just for a different kind of icing look. who knows what was going through my brain at the time. You know me, I never make it easy on myself. So, yeah. So now we have a full range of icinged up candies, right? So now we have to go to packaging. So now we have the packages. And so somewhere along the line, they've been inserted into a box. There's a travel poster for the base, and then an actual cardboard box that's just been sunk down enough where it looks like a thin box with flaps. Obviously, the flaps are a little short if you're thinking about it hard enough, but we'll just pretend that, we're not paying attention to that. So you start out with a sheet of the chocolates. So imagine how many pieces are going into all of this every time I make a sheet of chocolates. And then a second one here. Then we magically go into another kind of weird thing, and when it comes out, it's a wrapped box. So now it's got a top with some ribbon on it. The ribbon is, of course, uh, the exile walls. I'm using, I think it's 2 per stretch here, so there's like 4 pieces here and 2 here, because I needed it to be the same thickness and all that kind of stuff. I wouldn't say amazing, but yeah, this is one of my plots. It's one that I built a while back, and I just haven't shown it. And I thought this would be a good chance to show it, because I'll probably never get around to doing it if I don't do it now. But this is a controller, just to simulate that there's some buttons you got to punch and go boop boop boop, and suddenly the unboxed becomes boxed. And then we go through another little boop boop, and now you've got a stack of boxes. It's like, it's clone magic how it works. But it's basically just multiple cardboard boxes sandwiched together to make it look like a stack. And then suddenly they're boxed inside a box. So now you have it open, then we have it closed, and here's the little helper stacking up the closed boxes of chocolate boxes. And on a little pallet thing. And of course, he's having to use this little hovering machine. This one comes equipped with a arm for him to clamp on the boxes. That was tricky as well to get that to line up just right. It took me forever. And then I couldn't forget the center here. I had to put something here. It just looked too empty. So I put in a gingerbread cookie assembly line. Now, we don't go through the packing process of them, but we just assume that somewhere along the way they get added or boxed in somewhere. But there you go. So we start off with a plain gingerbread little fella. It's basically the bottoms of the metal bowls. And you can see there's like 3 per arm and leg, 2 for the body, one for the head. And again, I had to work out how was I going to show that these were being icinged. So I gave them little 2 ray guns. The mythical creature hat, a little elf hat, and then I put an actual item to behave as icing that's coming out of it. So there's a white icing coming out of this one. There's yellow coming out of this one, but you have to be really close to see some of them because the items are so small they disappear. You can't see it from this distance, but you have to go in to see it there. So he's getting white icing to put on all of the eyes and the little trim and the smile. Most of it, I think, or all of the little white bits are the rocket, the red rocket. I'm just showing the white part. Same way with the little squirt of icing that's coming out of the ray gun. It's all the same rocket. And I just figured out how to trim it up. Now, the way I did this is I actually made one of the finished ones first, and then I worked backwards to decide how much each station had icing up. So he's got a partial one that he's working on here. Here's a finished one with all the icing. And he gets to the next station, and he's got the yellow icing coming out for his little bow tie. He's got a partial tie here, but it's finished here. He also gets the eyes. How that comes in, I don't know. Maybe it switches the colors or something, but somewhere he gets the eyeballs as well. So then you got to have the little buttons, the candy drop buttons. So he's got some red coming out of his little squirt gun there. And then you have the completed gingerbread cookies, gingerbread men, bow ties, the icing bits, and the gumdrop buttons. But I figured it was too plain still, so I added in a snowflake on the top. Those are made from fence posts, just a bunch of them. I've showed in the past some of the others, snowflakes. I did one for an advent calendar thing that we did, I think last year or something. But this is another version. It's one of those deals that has to be on a thick wall or some kind of a thick surface, because otherwise you see all of the fence posts sticking out and it doesn't look like a snowflake anymore. But this is all, I don't know how many pieces, like one, two, I mean, it's just like tons. It's not a cheap item, but if you're just looking for something and you've got the space for it, this is perfect for a little decoration for a wall or a table or something like that. You'll notice along the walls, I went kind of crazy with, like, I wanted them to be like lollipops, like giant tree lollipops. So I made various ones of those and just plastered them around on top of the trees that come naturally with this particular wallpaper. So all of these are done with the fireworks. So you see the blue one, there's the red one here with the white edges, there's this one here. It's all the ones. Now again, if you didn't do Starfall Celebration and unlock these for your character, you can roommate with someone that has, and they can buy them for you, have it put into your crate, and then you can use them. But if you get the chance to be available for one of the Starfall events, I really strongly recommend that you take the time to do the achievement challenge that will unlock these for you. It's a permanent unlock. Once you do it, it's open for that character. And of course, if you want to put it on another character, just take the character that has it and she can give it to your alts and stuff. But these things are so versatile in so many things. We've made all sorts of items, bridges and sushi and candy and trees and just all sorts of stuff. They're very colorful. The shapes are really good for circles and things like this. I mean, you can see how I've played around with just twisted them differently to make different shapes. So yeah, it's just great items to have. And that doesn't include, you get the crates as well, and the other bits. Of course, again, now that we have the color shifting, a lot of people say, well, we don't need all these colorful bits, but I love them, and I'm kind of a cheapskate. I don't use the color shifting very much, so I rely heavily on uniquely colored items, and these are probably some of my favorite to work with these. Okay, so again, I just tried different designs to make like lollipops. You could probably play them off as flowers as well if you want to make a garden scene on your wall. But I'm pretending that they're different flavored lollipops because, you know, it's a candy factory kind of thing. And this here, I just was trying to come up with something to fill the space. So it's I honestly can't remember what this item is. I don't know if it's one of those summer drinks or I really honestly don't know. But part of this is one of those L-shaped pipes there. This part is the bottom of one of the emergency warning systems. It's the little cage with the dead canary in the bottom. This is one of the tanks, and this is one of the fireworks. Okay, let's move up. Here's Bob. He's the clone in charge. He's got the red hat, so he's the boss. He's also got the little shield on his. It's different from the others. I don't have the plain one. He's got to have the little one. You see, I made a sign where they're doing the countdown to Winterfest. It's a giant. I forget the name. It's Curious Gift or something. It's just the bottom of it, and that's the base of the sign. And then I used curved walls and straight walls to make the lettering for Days Till Winterfest. Travel posters for the backs of the numbers, and then I tried to make it look like it was like they would change the digits as the days went by, so it's snow blocks for the numbers. And while Winterfest is done, not quite come and gone, but it's already happening, I've got the countdown set at six days till. Yeah, it's probably that, Aurora. I really couldn't remember, honestly, about the drink for that. Okay, then we have the candy cane assembly line, sort of. You just have to imagine that somewhere else in this weird little factory, maybe it's hooked up to another one by these little panels, but there's some giant candy canes that get made and they get colored with different stripes. That is snow blocks for the cane itself. And then for the different colored stripes, we're using chua pillows for the red, green pillows for the green, and then purple pillows for the purple. I just wanted something extra running through the plot, I mean the building, to fill in more, I guess. And then we have this weird, again, I was going for kind of Willy Wonka-ish. So any kind of candies I could think of, I was trying to go for. And I wanted lots of buttons, lots of little gears and bits. So I'm going to try and remember how I did all this, but the pipes come from, oh, I'm trying to think. It's one of those snow, I think it's, I honestly can't remember. It's one of the snow machines, I think, that has a single pipe, and I just used it there to pretend like it's going in, like this is a funnel to the machine. And when it does this little beep bop boop, it comes out in these like weird little candy balls, like, I don't know, gobstoppers or something. So I had to have different kinds of elements coming through. So you've got something that looks like a drop of water, that's file, a blue file. Then we've got the purple fruit for some kind of purple goop, and then a snow clump for something white going in. So the goop stuff goes into the funnel, and then it gets tinkered around with all these buttons and gadgets, and it poops out the little candy balls. And then there's a bunch of stuff goes on here, and then I don't know what goes on. It gets zapped or something, but let's just go through this. This is the top of the emergency warning system, the cage with the canary in it. Same thing I use down here, it's just I'm using the bottom here and the top here. For the gears, this is framed glass. It's probably about 20 so pieces or more to get it so white, to make it look like a solid white. The gears themselves are the ends of the pillars, the Cassian pillars. And then I think it's also pillars for the base. I've just used a couple. And then the white base of the red rockets. There's a couple of those as well to get it more round. because you can see it kind of blinking because it's overlapping so closely. This is something I used. I have a steampunk plot on Dominion's side for Melancholy. Um, One of his, well, he's got a lot of gears and everything, but there's a painting of some gears, and that's where this comes from. Again, like I said, a lot of the elements in this particular build I brought in from various different ones, and I've just kind of combined it all into this single plot to just kind of overflow it with stuffs. These lights here, that's just a set of string lights. The back part is just the edge of one of the walls. I think it's the Draken wall. Got that metal edge to it with the little rivets. This here is those lights that I use in the kitchens of the proto buildings outside. And then I've just put in one of those red firework dynamite pieces to make it look like it's a temperature gauge or some kind of gauge that's half filled up, like it's, you know, getting too hot or something. These parts here, I think, are folded shirts. Probably not the best use for folded shirts, but it was that, or I used bookends, and I like the color of it because again, it looks kind of like it's gradiated, so I liked that. And then these parts here, gosh, I'm trying to remember. I want to say it's like wine bottle tops, but I'm not positive. But it's supposed to look like gauges that you shift. You know, it could be like on a DJ board or something. This part here, you probably recognize it. It's from the little TV, but again, it's got the layered glass to make the white frame. This here, honestly, I don't know what that is. I have no idea. I just found a lot of different parts that I thought was nifty looking. This one is the back, part of the back of the Gatorade machine, wiggling, and it's got like tape or like band-aids holding part of it together. A little weird because it's like the only moving part, but yeah, there you go. For the little conveyor belt system here, again, it's kind of like painting on a wall, like a mural, but you know, trying to pretend that it's three-dimensional sort of. So it's the edges of the graded floor panels. It's two of them sandwiched together. You know, it's more than two, but I mean, there's a top and a bottom, so it's multiple pieces all the way across. And then the little wheels or whatever are tank ends, the bottoms of tanks. I think it's the propane one. For the actual gobstopper candy looking things, those are just the pumpkin, candy pumpkins, candy pumpkin bowls, the bowls of candy, the pumpkin bowls of candy, or however you want to say it. I had a bunch of extras and they come in these pretty little color arrangements. So I just decided to use them as the candy balls. Okay, gauge here is similar to the ones that we saw down below. I've just changed it slightly using those yellow coins, the same things that we use for the corn on the cob upstairs. We're using that as the yellow part, and then one of the dynamite sticks for the other half of the gauge. These here are, I think, I don't know. It's either sword handles or something. I'm really not sure what those are. These are two different fireworks. There's the firecracker ones, and I tilted it just so that it looked like they're joined by wires, and it's like a whole little unit of I don't know, connected bits or something. I have no idea what was going through my mind when I just was looking for things that were colorful and had wires and buttons and bits and stuff. So yeah, there you go. And then the two fireworks stuck together to make the tube part. Maybe they're like batteries or something. I have no idea. These here, this is actually the same lights here. I've just chosen to just show the pink one. Again, with the color shifting, you could use a blue file and just change the color of it rather than having to go twist and tweak and adjust so that it's, you know, just the one you want to show. Again, it was very tricky getting all of this to follow the curve of the wall. It was a severe pain in the rear. I don't recommend it for anyone else, but if you're just determined, you can see it's possible, but it's really, um, it's not fun. I mean, I enjoyed doing it, but it was a lot of work. So yeah, just be aware that it's not as easy as it might seem. This one here uh, is hollow domes. It's like 4 or 5 of them together to make the thickness, and then it's the top of a mushroom. I was going for, like, you know, those where it has a dial and it kind of looks like a mesmerizing, like hypnotic kind of movement. Obviously, this isn't animated, so I couldn't get that actual effect, but that was the idea behind it, that it would be a little whirligig thing. And then the same concept here with the different gauges at different levels. I was aiming for that. And it's all it is a yellow book, and I've switched it here and there to make it look like the gauges are set differently. Is it the red moonlight panels? Okay, well, see, that's how you guys are so helpful. And here is layered glass again, the same thing here. And I've just put the graded Osun fencing part over top of it. It's the item you can unlock really early on in Arctera. I think you just have to have like friendly with them or something with the reputation, and you can get those panels. They're great for shelves, um, fencing, walkways like catwalks and stuff. But I use them for weird stuff like this. Then you come to the last little machine. We've got, you can hardly see it, and that's partly because of the lighting in here, but there is a puff of smoke coming out the tube here. And then there's a vent fan, and I've got some layered glass on top of it to kind of make it look like it's enclosed. This is exhaust fan, I think is what it's called. And then there's, I honestly don't remember what these are, the end of tanks or something. This is um, Dominion, the fancy Dominion dresser. This part here is one of the handles of one of those Protostar gift bags. It's just meant to look like a red wire. And then here is a little mini version of the conveyor belt. Now, it's kind of hard to see at a distance, but if you get in, you can kind of see. I went through and put all the little detail in, and then it's an open window. What happens to the little balls? Maybe they get shrunk down and go through the tube and out to somewhere else. I have no idea what happens to them, but you know, I was trying to just let my imagination run free, and that's what I come up with. These pipes here, those are the vertical pipes, I think, you can get from that Palavar Point Daily. So yeah, a lot of stuff going on in a really small space. Remember, this is the cozy version of the house. I didn't opt for the big one. I knew I wanted to keep it pretty compact, and I wanted to cram in as much detail as I could. Again, this isn't maxed out on the interior. There's still, I think, about 400 decor I could place. What I might possibly add if ever I decide to do that, I have no idea. But considering what all's in here, I think we did a pretty decent job of packing in as much fun stuffs. Again, I was going for like a kind of like a Willy Wonka style, but proto version of it, you know, my idea of what a little candy factory would be. So yeah, I think the roofers are here because I can hear them sawing something. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this first peek at this particular plot. Again, it's on Angelica Greenleaf. It's spelled a little funny though, so I'll be sure and add the name to the description of the video when it gets uploaded to YouTube. And of course, I'll be linking it on, well, not linking it, but I'll be listing it on the Twitch channel page with all the rest of my public projects. Um, it could be hammers. It could be that. I absolutely have no idea. I could probably go in and check, but I'm too lazy to go look. But there you go. This is my Protoville housing and workshop. Just, I'm guarantee there's people that can do so much more with this. I've maxed out the exterior and it looks so simple and plain and like there's nothing here. But if you take a closer look, you can see that I've really gone nuts with the details as far as the little houses go. So I hope folks, once it's open to public, which I will be doing after the stream has ended, I hope folks can appreciate uh, the effort that went into it, the blood, sweat, and tears that I spent toiling over how to get this to work properly and still have as much detail as I managed to squeeze out. Again, there's lots of things I'd love to add. I would have loved to have added in some of my previous proto winter scenes. I've had, you know, the little guys skiing or sledding and things like that. But I just didn't have the space for it. So, you know, it's a compromise of things that, you know, you could add or not add. But it was fun to make, and obviously I wanted to share it much sooner than I had, but hope it's at a good time. I know it's after the holidays now for a lot of folks, but maybe it will inspire some builds for the future. Um, so yeah, it's been a joy, guys. I'm glad we were able to hop on today. I wasn't sure, but since the builders are pretty much close to done, knock on wood, we shouldn't be having any future interruptions as far as that goes. So it looks like we'll be back to our normal schedule uh, from here on. Granted that I don't have any kind of serious health issues or anything, but that has, you know, again, knock on wood, been kind of calmed down lately, so shouldn't be too big of an issue. If at all, I have to cancel at any time, I will, of course, tweet out and let you guys know, and as far as advanced as I can, which is usually like the day before, but it could possibly be the morning of. Just depends on how I feel that day. I'll feel that day. But yeah, the plan is we will be doing some more community tours, which are kind of longer, and we'll probably break that down to a Wednesday and the following Thursday, 2-for-1 kind of thing, because they're so long and extensive to go through in one sitting. It's rough on my throat. It's tiring on my rear end for sitting here so long, and so on and so forth. So we'll just leave it at that. And thank you guys for joining. We will be doing individual plots too. I know I've got Aurora's in the list and many others, so don't think that I've stopped visiting individual plots. I've got a lot of community ones I want to go through. We still have all the winners from the competition that Carbine hosted, so I'd like to get through those as well. So in the meantime, I hope you guys had a happy holiday. Enjoy the rest of this year. Happy New Year to those that will be celebrating that coming and going. And until next year, you guys, I hope you have a great day, great week, great month, whatever, end of the year. And thank you for joining. I'll see you guys later. Bye-bye.